talking about?
We're running around like nuts. I'm John Griffith.
I'm still Cara Kilduff, and he's still
I'm
Dr. Frank Spinelli. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been
2008.
really?
Wow.
I thought for some reason I had.
That's
10
how
in
long
my
it takes me to write a second book.
And that's why he's here, guys. He's written another book. It's called P-Shy.
Not for the faint at heart.
You know, I made notes, and but I didn't. The one thing I didn't write down was what P-Shy actually is, like in medical terms.
It's called parauresis, and it's actually a real condition. It's a physiological condition where people, like myself, can't use public restrooms because they just have this intense fear that people are staring at them. But also, it's also a warning sign because the book is about the fact that when I was 11, I joined the Boy Scouts, and I was molested for 2 years by my scoutmaster. And one of the warning signs of being molested is children oftentimes wet the bed. And that's a very big warning sign. And then later on, that manifested as being incredibly pee-shy. So it takes a long time to get out of it. 21 million people suffer from this in the United States. Not all of them are molested, but it's very common. And I called the book that because no one wants to read a book called Shattered Life, you know, the story of Frank Spinelli. So I thought the book had a lot of humor in it, even though it's a very intense story and it actually happened. But I didn't think, I wanted it to be a little lighthearted, so I think, you know, P-Shy is sort of like a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's a serious,
Right.
you know, condition.
Well, what got you, I don't know, not interested because it's.
Yeah, I mean, your first book was a medical book. And this
This is
your
a
personal
memoir, so
journey.
this is a little different. But what happened is, in 1980, I told my parents, and being good Italian Catholic parents, they were convinced not to press charges because he was a police officer.
Oh,
So he stepped down, and you know, my life was supposed to go on. And in 2008, when I was here promoting my book, The Advocate Guide, I was on a book tour, and I met friends from Staten Island, where I'm from, and it sparked a very intense memory. And I Googled him, and 2 years after he stepped down, he adopted a boy and wrote a book about it called The Cop and the Kid, and they were on the Today Show.
I saw that.
And he was actually going to be, it was actually going to be made into a movie starring Charles Durning, I think. And I, being like a crazy Italian, I hired a private investigator and found him. And I called him up, and of course he didn't remember me. And if you know anything about child molestation, it's like alcohol abuse. I was just another glass of wine to him. He didn't know who I was. And we had a lovely little chat, and he told me that over the course of the past 25 years, he had adopted 15 boys, and he still had 3 of them with him. And so the rest of the book is about me working with the police and wiretapping conversations and trying to bring him to justice, because the boys that he had adopted were mentally disabled, where a lot of them were unwanted and probably couldn't speak for themselves.
Oh my God, that is disgusting.
Yeah, it was very, you know, I can look at it now as a third person, but at the time I felt like this is my life. You know, I was thinking, I can't believe I'm in this. But it was really interesting to go through the court process because the hands of justice move very slowly. I mean, painfully slow. And it didn't matter who I was or what I had to say or the amount of witnesses, and we're talking crazy time. I mean, you know, could you imagine wiretapping a conversation? I'm sitting there with the police, and you know, you're in your head thinking, I'm wiretapping conversations. I mean,
Yeah, but you're a crazy Italian. So
yeah,
like,
so it cancels each other out.
were you talking like this on the phone?
I was thinking, you know what, the funny thing is my best friend is an actor, and the whole time he was like, who were you in that moment? I was like, I don't know, I was Aretha Franklin, you know, like what would, you know,
I would have punched him
you
in the
know,
neck.
but it's true, it's like, who were you at that moment? Were you like a little boy? Were you a doctor? Were you, you know, an adult man? And Eric is featured in the book throughout it because he helped me with his acting tips of how to be. And they're very funny, but I use them a lot because you can't imagine, you're never prepared for this in any way. I mean, I'm an HIV doctor, I work in the city, I take care of people all the time, and there was nothing that could have prepared me for this. And so even you know, interestingly, you know, there's a story about child molestation every year. I mean, Precious came out, I mean, you hear stories, look at Woody Allen and
Right.
Dylan Farrow. I mean, there is a story
yeah.
every year, whether or not it's true or not, that comes out, but it's celebrity driven.
Right.
And I really never thought for a moment I had a book, because who really cares about Frank Spinelli? I mean, I know you do probably. But,
I do.
But the fact that he had been able to continue made me think that he wasn't just a child molester, he was a sociopath. And the fact that he would challenge, after being taken down by the Boy Scouts in Staten Island, and then adopt a boy, and then adopt another boy, and then it became this cycle.
And like nobody saw that was like a little weird? Or?
Well, throughout his book, it's peppered throughout it. The other cops are saying, why do you want to adopt a boy? That's kind of strange. And I think, you know, he lived with his mother, and his 4 brothers were cops. His sister was married to a cop, and that had to be really exciting going to that hearing and have them all there. They all look like lumberjacks, and here I am, like this little Italian sitting there thinking, I'm going to get killed in the parking lot. But I really, as much as I joke about it, I really can't stress enough how I would like victims, who I call survivors, to come forward. Because the interesting thing that I find is that we say that you're innocent until proven guilty. Let's say Woody Allen, for example. He will never be tried except in the court of public opinion.
Right.
But he is innocent until proven guilty. However, Dylan Farrow is not a liar until proven truthful. She has a story, and she has the right to tell her story. And all those survivors from Michael Jackson or Kevin Clash from the Tickle Me Elmer, what do we do immediately? We vilify them. Oh, they're just coming out of this for money. Even Sandusky's wife came forward on the Today Show. Well, they did it for money. Nobody really wants to come out as a victim of child molestation for money. I mean, I certainly didn't, and I'm donating all the money because I didn't want anybody to think that's what I did.
You know, grab my handheld right there.
Oh,
I guess you're
we do a
crackling.
little stand-up now.
So all the proceeds of the book are going.
I'm donating all the author proceeds to GMHC, and I'm on the board of directors there. And they do tremendous amount of outreach. If you could imagine, the fastest rising group of HIV is African American boys 13 to 24 years old.
That is horrible.
Let me see that person.
Oh, we need to turn it on.
Yeah, sometimes it helps. It's number 7. There you go. Okay.
It's on.
Things are beeping. It's a little wild.
Live TV, folks. Live TV.
You got to roll with the punches.
That's true.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
But it sounds like a child molester.
I'm Dr. Frank Spinelli.
So
But
I mean,
you are
know,
so busy and you're
Yeah.
so accomplished, and it's just this is just. I mean, I'm impressed by you as a person, but I mean, just this is amazing to me. I didn't realize it was that
Right.
cop.
That's my mother calling in.
Well, I mean, just discussing the book. I think what we were talking about is just one layer of it. We're talking about it like it's a crime procedural, which there's the element of that. But when I read the book, I saw your personal journey.
Oh, well, because, you know, life goes on.
Right.
So, you know, while you're in the midst of being Nancy Drew, you're falling in love, you know, your parents get sick, you're thinking about getting married. There's a whole section about my husband, and something really traumatic happened to him during this process. And you're trying to balance my career, my family life, my personal life. And then you know, a lot of people said maybe I was a little hard on my parents in the book. And I really felt that everyone had to be fleshed out in 3 dimensions, and everybody has flaws. I mean, all of us. And I think that's how you understand. But the point of the fact is that my mother and father had done something. They went to the Boy Scouts of America. And if I could give you any advice, it would be that we forget child molestation is a crime. And what we do normally is we go to, whether it's a school or a team or a church, we go to the head of that organization. And what does the system do? It tries to contain itself, to
Yeah.
minimize controversy. You have to go to the police. And I think that's what we forget. And, you know, in hindsight, yes, my parents should have gone to the police, but they did something. They went to the head of the organization. They just were advised wrongly. And I think a lot of people also, especially in the gay community, have this whole boy-man syndrome where they like younger guys. That's not child molestation. Child molestation is a person that's a minor. They're not an adult. And there's a distinction between that. And I think it really does a grave disservice to gay, transgender, heterosexuals to even give a connotation that child molestation is a sexual orientation. It is not a sexual orientation, because you wouldn't say anorexia is an alternative way of eating. No, it's a psychopathology. It's a disease,
Right.
and it should be treated that way. Child molestation is a psychopathology. It should be treated that way. It shouldn't be engendered in a sexual orientation. Like, there was a book on how to, for pedophiles, to understand them. And it's like, well, it's a really hard thing to have the object of your affection be a child, but still, it's illegal. And you can't act on it, unfortunately. And there is very, very little you can do for a child molester. And so it is a sad state, but I think, like in this story, Bill Fox, who was my child molester, he became like what many sociopaths do. They get better at it. And so one child became another child. And, their state is funding these children for him to have. And, and when we went to the trial and you hear the testimonies, the hierarchy. I mean, when I was 11, if you were good, you got to ride in the front. You got to go to Carvel. When you were bad, you got to ride in the back. And another boy was made to ride the front. That's a whole world for a child to get to
Right.
ride
Yeah.
in the passenger seat. So it's such a layer of cruelty. A lot of people that I've been interviewed by say, well, the sex must have been. And I said, it really wasn't about the sex. It was about the cruelty, and the fact that someone could be a mentor to you, someone you should trust. And, the fact is 85% or more of child molesters are someone the child or the family knew. In fact, the parents probably introduced the child to the child molester. So they see that person
Yeah.
as an extension of their parents. And what comes with that? Respect, loyalty,
Right.
and secrecy, especially
and
with the relationship.
Yeah, my assumption is a lot of that is about power.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And what's so interesting? As a doctor, it taught me to really ask my patients about their childhood. Obese women, men and women who struggle with drug addiction or alcohol addiction, I would just say, you never say, did you have a normal childhood? Because nobody has. But you say, did anything traumatic happen to you? And you wouldn't believe how many adults have been molested. 1 in 6 boys, 1 in 4 girls by the time they're 16 are molested. 1 in 4. I mean, it's just incredible that we don't really talk about this, and we talk more or less about stranger danger, children being abducted off the street, which happens 1 in 1.5 million children. I mean, the odds of being abducted off the street are nothing compared to being molested, and it happens with a disproportionate amount of time. And I also feel that it happens in higher degrees among gay children, because gay children, if you think back to those early days, you're very curious because there's nowhere or no one for you to identify with. So you are a perfect prey for a child molester.
Especially of our generation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's just unheard of because we don't talk about it at all. I joked about it in my first book. My only idea of who was gay was growing up was Paul Lynde from
Right, Hollywood Square.
Hollywood
Bewitched.
Square. I mean, that's not a good reference, And now you have so many shows, so it's great, but it's still pervasive as ever.
Yeah, and there's a lot of environmental factors and things like that. But fortunately, we are slowly changing and becoming more aware. And thankfully, people like you are helping to make people aware.
Well, thank you.
And
And I think
be
it really
more
comes with telling your story and sharing that so that you don't feel so isolated.
coming out. It's another coming out process.
Exactly that. Exactly. And a lot of people think that they're gay because they were molested by a man. And it's shocking because it's not a gender. A man that molests a boy is not gay. He's a child molester. And you shouldn't really transfer those two thoughts at all because you're giving that a sexual orientation. So you don't say, I give a quiz when I do my talk and we talk about it. If a priest has sex with another, young priest, is he closeted homosexual or is he a child molester? He's probably homosexual. But if a priest has sex with an altar boy, is he gay? No, he's a child molester. And it's very easy for me, but it's still very hard for people to grasp that because especially now, it's very hard for people to even want to comprehend men having sex with boys. And I'm sure all those parents, all those fathers felt very betrayed by this hero.
Yeah.
He was a hero cop. I mean, it wasn't uncommon for him to be in the newspaper. I remember there was this award ceremony where Ed Koch had given him an award. I mean, he was like a local celebrity. So, that's really hard.
That's another tale of the closet.
Probably, yeah. And so, it's hard for a dad to say, oh, here, you're going to teach my son to be a man, and then realize, oh, he had sex with my son, you know.
Yeah.
You don't want to deal with that. It's ugly and it's painful, and you feel a layer of betrayal that you cannot imagine. So a lot of people, like my father, probably just didn't want to face that and just think, oh boy, that's probably why he's gay, because he was molested. You know, that's what my mother thought for years. She probably still thinks that now, but it's a little too late for her to change me, although I'm sure she'd love to. Sure.
Probably prays every Sunday.
Oh, she goes to church every day.
I'm sure she does.
Every day. I don't think she
Like
misses
7 o'clock
it.
mass.
Oh, you know, you always worry like we had bad winters, and you think, did you pull that car out of the garage? And she's like, I don't think I'll do it today. I'm like, please don't. I don't want you dying on the way to church.
I'll walk to church, Frankie.
Well,
Exactly.
The book is P-Shy. It's I went through it like water. It held my attention so much. I was telling you before the show. I started reading it on a plane ride, and then every time my boyfriend left the room during the course of the weekend,
You pulled out a
I
dirty
pulled out
magazine.
the iPad and went back to it. So yeah, I want to
Yeah,
thank him for
don't
bearing
read
with
it
me.
unless you have access to a bathroom, because you probably have to go.
But again, your proceeds are going to charity.
All the author proceeds will go to GMHC. One of the things they said about me at the hearing was that I was doing it for money, and I just felt like that was the last reason why I'm doing this. But it is a good cause. I feel great about it, and whatever money I would love to raise for
Well,
them.
you're clearly passionate about the way you speak, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
So
You're
again,
so
it's
giving
available in hard
tonight.
copy and digital download.
Absolutely. Wherever fine books are sold. Or not, you know.
And there'll be links on our website. Actually, there's already a link to where you can pick up the book on the www.talkingabout.info website. And I want to thank you for sharing your story with
Thanks
us.
for having me back so soon.
You have to come back now.
2008 to 2014. At this rate, I'll be back next decade.
Okay, and we're going to be back in just a moment, so please just take a look at this.
I teach NYC because every day it teaches me. Become a New York City public school teacher at teachnyc.net.
Hi, welcome to Talking About. I'm John Griffith.
I'm Cara Kilduff. We have 2 lesbians here.
That's right.
Dr. Frank Spinelli and Scott Kramer. Look at their outfits, guys.
Fran, that's Fran. Spinelli.
Fran Spinelli.
Yeah.
Well, you just
Sorry.
changed the spelling, F-R-A-N-Q.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I didn't have a donut. Oh,
That's my fault. I brought the donuts.
You did?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I did.
Mwah.
They only had 10 left. So
And,
I would have brought more.
You bought out Dunkin' Donuts.
oh my God. The girl that worked there was probably like, what? Oh my gosh. Wait, Scott is, we've talked to Dr. Frank. We know he's a doctor because I'm calling him doctor. Dr. Frank. Scott is a therapist extraordinaire to our community.
Thank you.
To us. We should get on the couch. All of us get on the couch and you come. I think we did that last time.
We did, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all
You
got
don't
on the
remember?
couch. Well, JC and I got on the couch.
Yeah,
We
you,
need-
yeah, you guys
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Did you hug them? Did you
don't
sing
know.
Kumbaya?
I don't think we did that last time. Maybe we can do that closing this time.
No.
No.
I had therapy this morning. I'm good. You
Oh,
know what I'm
okay.
saying? I'm good. Sorry, it's you. It's
Yeah.
you.
But a lot of your work is in support and helping out the HIV community.
Yes, it is. I was diagnosed with AIDS actually in 1995, and so that's the reason that informs what I do. And so now what I do is I work with the gay community, I work with the HIV positive community, and I do a few things in that arena. So one is I reach out to them directly, and I try to create a space in my office for them to feel comfortable, safe, secure, so that they can talk about what is going on in their lives, how they feel about living with HIV, how they feel about taking medication, how they feel about relationships, dating, disclosure, isolation, all of those things. And so while I see people individually about that, I also talk about that with my group called High Five, which meets on Sunday mornings. And there's probably about, I would say, 7 to 10 people each week that come to that group. And that group is a low-cost group. And I started that group in the summer of 2010 because I went to a group when I was newly diagnosed. And that group really saved my life. I felt a huge bonding experience in that group, and I wanted to create that same sort of atmosphere. And so now I have this group, and one of the members of this group was actually in my original group.
Wow.
So it's a really awesome sort of 360-degree kind of thing. We talk about all of those same topics, and people feel like this is the only place where they can talk about those things, where they can finally let their guard down and relax a little bit and say, I'm a gay man living with HIV, and I can be who I am and share my experiences. And maybe the other thing that I can do is help other people. Tell them what I'm doing. Tell them how I overcame isolation one time. And that seems to really help.
That does help.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing in the HIV community now, well, actually, it's not in the HIV community. It's in the HIV negative community.
Actually, it's something that actually first came to my attention the first time that Dr. Spinelli was on. And you're talking about, of course,
PrEP.
Yes.
Yep, so that stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis.
Correct.
Yes. See?
Oh, and we're going to have a PrEP rally at GMHC on May 7th, and it's going to be the first of 4 public forums anybody can come to talk about PrEP. The first one is men who have sex with men. There'll be one on serodiscordant couples and fertility, especially with women and men, and then African American, and then the fourth will be a huge debate. Just why don't you tell everybody what PrEP is?
Yeah, I was just.
Yeah, sure.
We want to thank Dr. Frank with a Q.
So PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. What that is an HIV medication, so somebody can take that who's HIV positive, but when you're HIV negative, you take that in the hopes of preventing HIV infection. So like a woman would take the pill to prevent pregnancy, people would take this pill to prevent HIV infection. You take it on a daily basis, you take it consistently, and reports are that it is 99% effective.
But the recommendation, well, it's for you're taking Truvada, which is
Yep, it's
an
called Truvada.
antiretroviral that we use to treat HIV. It's a combination pill, but it's one pill, and you have to take it every day. But the recommendation is still to use condoms because you can get other diseases like Hep C or syphilis or gonorrhea. And unfortunately, there are cases that have showed up recently in my practice where somebody was on PrEP but then got Hep C at a bathhouse. So the recommendation strongly is that you still have to use a barrier method like condoms.
Right.
But you know, we're really pushing, especially in New York, to end the spread of HIV, and it's the whole thing that was like ended by 2020. If we just had everybody take PrEP, you could stop the spread. And although New York itself has done really, really well, I mean, we're below the mean if you look at across the nation, we have 50,000 new cases every year since the beginning. So,
too many.
you know, we're still not doing enough, even though we've come so far. And the idea is to stop the spread of HIV from just becoming this thing that's just going out of control. And I think we have to just look at PrEP as a serious alternative that can do that.
Right. Well, I mean, the flip side is
It's expensive.
it's expensive.
It's not
and-
always covered by insurance. You know, $3,000 a month.
Oh my
It's not
gosh.
cheap.
Wow.
Well, the new hepatitis C drug that just came out is $1,000 a pill.
What?
Yeah. So if you drop it on the floor, kiss it to God and take it. Don't throw it out.
5-second
But
rule.
you know, medication are not cheap. But you know, we have to think of this as something bigger than just the cost. And I think, you know, Gilead, which makes Truvada, really has had to address that. And I think that's one of the reasons why they don't promote it too much, because they're afraid of the backlash. But we, as providers and as the community, have to at least talk about it. There you go. I used the title of your show. You know, we do have to talk about this because it's not for anybody to make this decision. And there's a lot of good arguments why we shouldn't take it. It's expensive. They're afraid that people will have unprotected sex again. And
Right.
I think there's been a lot of studies to show that that's not happening. But still, it has to be told that this is available. and this is an alternative, and this could prevent you from getting a disease that we have no cure for.
I never heard of it until, I swear to
Absolutely.
God, last week one of my friends said, I want to go talk to my doctor about PrEP, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what's that? And then he told me, and I was like, okay, so then,
And we should talk about PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis, which is if you've been, like, let's say a condom broke and you're afraid you've been exposed to HIV, that you could go on a medication combination for 28 days and really reduce your risk of acquiring HIV. Because just because you've been exposed to it doesn't mean you got it.
Right.
So,
And these things are so important to talk about so that people have options, right? So,
you should have like a ding
Right.
every time we say the title.
No.
so what you don't want is for someone, I never want someone to come into my office and say, oh, if only I had known about that last week.
Right.
Because that just breaks my heart.
it's on the CDC website.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And when was the last time you were on the CDC website? Before you were looking for today's show.
Today.
So, but not a
Today.
lot of people know about that, right? So PEP is, like you said, I mean, PrEP is covered by most insurances, and if it's too expensive, Gilead does have
A reimbursement program.
Yeah, it's like a payment assistance program.
Yes.
And PEP, if you feel like you've been exposed to HIV for whatever reason, you can go to an emergency room, and the sooner the better. They do it up to
Well,
72 hours.
You should get it within 36 hours, but
Yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
can go as far as
So the
72.
sooner
I
the
don't
better,
recommend
though,
it,
for sure. So just make sure that you know these options.
Yeah, I mean, the options are out there, and
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down to making informed decisions about your own sexual well-being.
Absolutely.
And going to forums and just asking questions. I mean, how would you not know unless you really just attended these things or watched these programs? I mean, I mean, why would you know this?
Well, it's really, it's becoming more mainstream now, and many more people are learning about it now. And it's through the work of like HIV activists that are trying to get the word out there, and people that want other people to know that they do have options. And if they want to have sex a certain way, this is another option for them. And you can use PrEP in conjunction with condoms, right, as like double layer protection, because as a reminder, PrEP only protects against HIV, like Frank was saying before. So it's really important to know that as well.
What are some of the side effects of taking that medication? Is that something that would like hinder somebody from wanting to take it? the side
Yeah,
effects?
definitely it could. I think the most, what I've heard about is side effects could include kidney function
I mean, the
problems.
two components, one of them can cause kidney problems. You know, you have to remember when you're on this, you're on it every day. You also have to see your doctor regularly for blood tests to look at kidney function. Also, there could be long-term bone effects. But I do believe that there is a place for this, you know, for this treatment, especially if you're in a couple. Or, you know, we forget that there are a lot of couples where women can't say no to their husbands, especially in certain communities where they demand sex and they can't say no and they have to have unprotected sex, especially also sex workers. I mean, this is not for everybody, but we forget that there are certain populations of people who just can't say no to sex, or they want to use condoms and their husband says no. And this is a great way of protecting yourself, and I think it's something that more people should know about it, not just in the gay community.
Absolutely, yeah.
But, you know,
I
side
agree.
effects, you know, initially probably maybe just some like nausea, but it's very, very well tolerated, I will tell you.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a really great website.
Which is?
There's one.
FrankSpinelliMD.com.
We're going there now.
Frank
Well,
Spinelli
that is also a very good
That's
website.
an awesome website. And another good website is for,
JMHC.org.
that's another good one. He knows them all.
I'm sorry. Or the body. You can,
The body,
what were you gonna
yeah,
say? I'm sorry.
thebody.com. But I
Body.com.
was going to say there's a great one on Facebook called PrEP Facts.
Okay.
And that's just an awesome one. It's a bunch of activists that get together and really can have a conversation.
Damon
Okay.
Jacobs, who runs that,
Yeah.
is also going to be at the PrEP rally.
Okay, and we're
Jimmy.
just about out of time. Your website one more time?
My website is scottakramer.com, Kramer with a K.
Okay, and frankspinellimd.com.
Correct.
And Frank also has a great book out called PSHI. You want to check that out.
Correct.
I'm John Griffith,
I'm still Cara Kilduff.
and thank you both for spending some time with us.
You've been
Thank you.
Thank
delightful.
you.
Have a good night.